first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Art Mart. I'm one of your co-hosts, Trip.
Health or High Water. Art Mart was your old podcast.
Oh shit!
That's okay though. You were really close.
So close.
You must, and you even had breakfast today too.
I even had breakfast and two breakfasts really, but that's the start. Art Mart was my old podcast before this one, so we were just reminiscing a little bit about that, and I got sidetracked. So I mean, we got a great episode today. Remember, guys, please go to www.ascendperformancetraining.com. Go check out the blogs that Brett's doing. Go check out our programs. We got some videos up to go check out. Also, like, subscribe, and follow. You guys have been awesome. 5-star, 5 reviews already. That's awesome. Let's keep it going.
Thank you. Catherine from Through the Game. How you doing? How's your day going?
It's great. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out of your day. Trip and I really appreciate it.
Of course.
So we're excited. So you're doing, one of the reasons Trip and I were excited to have you in is you're focusing so much on mental health, childhood athletics, which is near and dear to both of our hearts as far as really giving kids a leg up. Can you just start us off by kind of giving us a little bit of a background on like your mission and a little bit about what you're doing right now with Through the Game?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. I thought the intro was a bit. I wasn't sure if that was planned. I was like, wow, look at that.
That actually, it was a bit.
Testing you guys.
So yes, I've been in the mental health world 26 plus years, in many different capacities. And along that journey, I was a athlete myself, a 3-sport athlete growing up, a Division I lacrosse player, moved out to Colorado in '94 and was coaching. Wasn't quite ready to leave the sports world. And I've coached in a variety of environments. And in addition to my coaching experience, I've worked with teenagers. And I would say a very diverse group, ranging from kids in the legal system to kids at very affluent high schools. And what I can tell you is problems exist everywhere. Mm-hmm. What I also can tell you is that I don't believe we're doing enough. So, 8 years ago or so, I was coaching with a local club program, and I said to the owner, I think I can do something different here for you. And I really had this idea to bring mental health to the athletes. So we started doing workshops, and it was extremely well received. And then parents would say, oh, can you meet with my other daughter's soccer program? Or, it just started to catch on that this was an effective tool that we weren't really hitting. You're using. Mm-hmm. So it kind of grew from there, and then launched the business a few years ago, left my day job, and I just went for it. My passion is really about education, prevention, awareness, connection. I think schools are doing the best they can. I think some do better than others, but I still think our kids are suffering. Mm-hmm. I think it's different than when I grew up. I know it's different than when I grew up. So my goal is to offer this level of support where in these existing communities. By no means do I believe mental health isn't a problem outside of athletics. It is. We have issues. But I decided to go into the sports arena because I know it's an existing culture, and tons of kids play sports, right? It's a way to really reach so many young people and talk about their shared experiences.
Well, it's actually kind of funny because we had a meeting about some youth athletic stuff earlier this week. Football for ages 6 to 12, 2021 to 2022, football is down almost 20% in participation. Hockey is down to 10, and lacrosse is down to 8. I mean, it's all across the youth boards, really, right? So what do you attest to what's going on, like mentally and physically with these kids? Why are they just dropping out of youth sports so quick?
I think a lot of that is the rise of the club, club sports, and the rise of the push toward single sport, year-round training. Every college coach, not every, but many coaches will tell you, oh, we support multi-sport athletes, but do they allow it to be possible is another question. And so I think at younger ages, kids are feeling that pressure to focus on their sport. And the problem is, like we were just discussing, what are we seeing as a result? We're seeing injuries at an earlier age because they're not cross-training. We're seeing the impact on their mental health, the pressure, the anxiety that they're feeling. Whereas sports is supposed to be, in my opinion, joy and fun and connection.
Yeah.
Can it take you somewhere? Absolutely. Does it always? Not necessarily. Does it teach you about life? 1,000% yes.
Yeah. When I grew up, I played baseball my whole life. When I grew up, we didn't talk about any of this stuff. It was, I mean, you barely, like, there was you were seen as weak if you wanted more water. Now that's a out there example, but so what is it now, like, with this mental health, like, as you're approaching it, you mentioned before, you do things that are a little bit unconventional and unorthodox on how you approach this stuff. Can you give a little insight to the progress you're seeing and how you're approaching this stuff, and then kind of like where you see this going through the game, how it's making an impact?
Sure. The unconventional approach is more in my private practice in terms of I really want to normalize mental health and not make it be such a scary stigma of like, come to the office and we have to do this in private and in secret. I think that talking about our issues and struggles, it's not just okay, it's important and critical to our healing. And look, my philosophy is not one of let's sit in this and be stuck. I believe in a balance of acknowledgement movement. We need to acknowledge where we're at, look straight in the face of what we're dealing with, and we can't ignore how it's different today for kids. At the same time, I'm not, let's get stuck there. We need to move forward. We need tools and solutions, and we want to build resilient kids. That is really critical, is learning how to work through difficult times.
So how do you use, I'm assuming you work with a lot of people in team sports. How do you use what you're doing and the team mentality to make sure these kids are progressing? Because I'm sure that could be a tool, right? Using team sports to help out with environments, ethics, learning how to grow to be a better person.
The goal really, and where I see the vision of through the game, is empowering kids through the group experience, working with coaches too. And then the third group that I always want to talk to is parents. They're the ones I meet with the least, unfortunately. I think, I'm not sure the reason. Is it time? Is it money? Is it probably time, I think, more than anything. People feel they don't have time.
Yeah.
So by going at this from a 3-tiered approach, we hope we can kind of hit it at all angles. And then I have my private practice where I meet individually with clients. But the group work is about having dialogue around what are we dealing with? What are the issues on the table? How are we working through this? How are we building community? We know that mental illness, mental health issues thrive in isolation. Now, I say that because we know if you're alone, struggles can really persist. But there's also this whole theory or concept around being with people and still feeling alone.
Sure.
So are we really encouraging connection? So my vision, my goal is to keep doing this work, to get out, talk to people. I will talk to any group, anytime, do more of it. And I am hoping that more clubs and programs realize the need and that this will help them, right? This isn't a drag our feet. This is my hope is that where we get with mental health is where we are now with like training, weight training. We were just talking about this before. Like when I played in college, we were in the weight room in the off season 3 times a week. Now you're seeing it all year, right? And it's for prevention. The same, I hope, we get to that place for mental health, that we infuse it into what we're doing. This is about prevention. This is about teaching life skills. And my goal is never to make them like state champions or Olympic athletes. I support that. I love it.
Right.
We all want to win.
Right.
I get that. But my goal is be a better human, feel better, and guess what? As a result, you're going to do better.
Is there a difference between your practice and like I don't know if you call them seminars or like group meetings? Is there like one love over the other that you're like, man, I really make more progress this way? Or are they both kind of symbiotic?
It's a nice balance, but I love the group work because it feels preventative. It feels proactive. It feels that group dynamic. There's something about that energy. But I do love one-on-one because I also then really get into it with people on a deeper level, and that is very healing. So I like them both, but I feel I really am thankful for the work that I do in groups, because I think personally it helps me too. Just not being just in the weeds of all the negativity and the hard stuff.
Yeah. Do you find yourself like with improving the coaches? Like, do you see, because that's right. Isn't that like the coach mentality and they have a lot to focus on. They want to win and perform, and they have a lot going on. They're not thinking of, hey, how does Bobby feel about his mental health? Like, that's not always the thing. Is that something that, like, is that something you're trying to do, is like educate them on how to manage expectations?
Absolutely. And I always invite coaches to the workshop, and I also try to put in the proposals individual time with coaches. So I can do coach training separate. I can have the coaches there with the kids, with the athletes. I think we're all in this together. It takes a village. But for the coaches, my hope is that this makes their job easier, that they can understand, they have tools, they have a higher emotional IQ, to not just have some kid walk in the room and then go, I don't know what the heck to do here. And the reality is, you can ignore this all you want. Kids are still dealing with it. Like, they're still coming very anxious to practice, or they're still so locked in their head at a game. You can have them run sprints all you want, but you have to get to the root of it, and then again, keep moving, right? Not get stuck there. But I think educating people on recognizing signs, knowing how to create more support, more connection, we're going to help kids work through this stuff.
Yeah.
But it is different. It's a different world right now, and we can't deny that. But yes, I love working with the adults.
Yeah.
Do you see a big difference from like post-COVID or pre-COVID to now about kids' mental health and where they're at in sports?
Definitely.
Where's that correlation?
For sure, I think COVID. Look, a lot of people, mental health were like buzzwords after COVID, right? It was like it brought
almost too much.
Yeah, it brought it to the surface because now there really was this universal struggle because everyone was locked in their homes and feeling isolated, and sports were gone, and everyone said, "What's happening?" But I've stood firm on this. Mental health issues were an issue prior to COVID. COVID brought it more to the surface. To me, I think a lot of this started with technology and that rapid speed with which cell phones grew and developed, social media, this false sense of connection, increase in violence, increase in exposure to violence, just all this stuff. And we're so divided, and that's not a good thing for mental health as a society. And I work with anybody. Like, I love that people don't know where I'm coming from.
Who's your market?
Yeah, because it's universal. Like, these are issues that everyone faces. And I think we need to find where we're more alike than we are different. Yeah. I really believe that.
So with these sessions, and you're talking, do you see some of the same stuff with these athletes? Are you coaching them through their athletic performance and how to make sense of that and their place in their athletic performance? Or are you taking on more like home life? Are your parents putting pressure on you? Like, where do you draw the line there, and like how does that work?
Well, a lot of times it rises through the sport or surfaces through the sport. Like, a parent will call me up and be like, oh, my child is having problems with competing. I don't know what's going on. They're in their head. And I sit with them for an hour and realize there's a lot more happening. So sometimes it surfaces through their performance or lack thereof, or grades if they're not doing well, or they're getting into trouble, or they're experimenting with drugs and alcohol. All these things are sort of what starts to bring it to the surface, but there's generally more to the picture. But it can be sometimes just about performance. It's not like these workshops I don't pitch them as group therapy. This is education. This is like in one of my last sessions, we talked about the difference between rituals and routines. Just giving them that basic information. So it really is about control. A lot of times people, and teenagers specifically, feel they have no control.
Yes.
So here, let's understand this difference. What is a ritual? What is a routine? What is the difference? Why does knowing that matter? So just giving them sometimes those nuggets of information and the space to dialogue around these things can just propel them forward.
Well, and I agree with you. I really feel like as kids and youths get older, they need structure more than ever.
Yes.
Right. Structure is probably the most important thing. And what I'm also seeing too, whether it's school, parental pressure or sports pressure, it's pressure from every side. And when you got a weak structure and pressure, it's going to fall.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I love is that your education is turning into conversation,
Yes.
and conversation is turning into integration.
Yes.
Which is great. So how are some methods you use to integrate certain tools to help these kids out to that point?
Methods, it does start with awareness and acknowledgement. It's like we can't move anywhere until we know what we're dealing with. And so step one is always like, what's happening? What's going on? Step two, I think, is being willing. Are you willing to make a change? Are you open to change? And that takes practice. It's about creating new, healthier habits. A big buzzword is gratitude, right? We hear a lot about gratitude. But what does that mean? What are you doing to really change the structure of your brain? Yeah. And that's what's so cool. We do know the concept or the theory of neuroplasticity tells us we can change. But it does take work. It doesn't happen just overnight. Wearing a shirt that says gratitude doesn't do it. What like every night, what are you doing? Every day or once a week? What can you do to make change? It takes commitment, it takes structure, consistency, support, shared experiences. Like we sit in the group and we all say, what's a shared experience that you all have on this team? This just happened the other day with a soccer team I'm working with. And one of the shared experiences is we all make mistakes. Wow, what a concept. And then we get into the dialogue of how are mistakes handled on this team? How are they viewed? Is it are you put down? Are you made to feel terrible, or is it like, what's the dialogue and the how do we view it? How do we handle this? So I don't know I think I got a little off track, but it's just about acknowledging, being willing, and then practicing and having the support. I guess I would break it down that way.
Yes, it's a very big perspective model. It's like, all right, well, now I can show you, now you can be aware, and now you can learn from it. We do pretty much kind of the same thing here with real life structuring from a physical aspect, right?
Right.
We're very, very, very similar with those kind of models. Have you seen? Obviously in sports it's gone down. Have you seen a huge dip in just activity within kids too, as well, post-COVID? Adding the phones to everything, COVID, all the other stuff. I personally seen a huge drop in activity in kids.
Definitely. I think it's twofold. I think there's a group of young people that feel like they can never slow down, and they are go, 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 and that's the perspective and the push of their environment. You need more. You have to do this. You have to volunteer. You have to tutor. You have to be a straight A student. Yeah, the list goes on. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of pressure. And I'm not here to dog parents, because I'm a parent. I know how hard it is. And the truth is, there's many reasons why parents are putting on that pressure. They feel that pressure. The cost of college, if that's your goal, is obscene. So there are groups of kids that are go, go, go. I think there's also a big slowdown. And I think it's this, I don't know, it's hard to have a conversation without talking about technology. My old colleagues used to joke that I would do that all the time, but it does come back to that. They get sucked into their phone and the device, and they all of a sudden 3 hours go by, and then they feel they don't have any time for anything. So I think they think they're doing stuff, they think they're connecting, but it's really it's kind of a false sense of connection.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sports is such a cool, and this is one of the reasons I was excited. Well, we both were excited to have you on. Sports is such a cool vehicle to learn life.
Yeah.
There's so many like my dad was the hardest person on me through sports I can imagine. I mean, from the age of like 7, we were in the garage every night practicing, hitting off a tee, videotaping it, like looking, hey, and this was before it was cool to do that. And I look back on it, there was a lot of stress through it, but there's so much you can learn, discipline. And I've grown as an adult looking back on my athletics, like the competitive nature, and figuring out how to do that. So, we had a guy in here yesterday who was a football coach talking about a lot of these things. And these kids got to play sports. Yeah. I think it's almost absolutely essential for people to get into sports, but now trying to wrap their head around, okay, how do I learn from this? Because not everyone's going to be an Olympian, right?
Right.
And I know a lot of parents, and I've had these conversations with a lot of parents that maybe they have skewed perspectives that, hey, my kid's going to be a professional athlete. But it's like what it really is it's an opportunity for the kids to learn, to socialize, to find their pecking order,
Yes.
who they are, their competitive nature, their willpower, their desire to compete. And those are what create the most successful CEOs of the future.
Yes.
So your role, like in what you're doing right now in having these conversations is such a cool and unique place to be because you're at the forefront of teaching this stuff and observing it.
Yes, 100%. That's why I'm such an advocate of sports, because you're out there without your phone, without a device. Now, we've added drones and all iPads to the sideline, but the athletes aren't in the pool on a screen.
Yeah.
And same with like the arts. I mean, it doesn't have to just be sports. It may be theater, it may be singing, it may be, actual creating stuff using your hands. But through these non-traditional arenas of learning, that's what we get. It's another life classroom. And I encourage that all the time with coaches. Ask them what's working, what's not. Where can you make life parallels? This is the opportunity. And I feel one of the reasons I'm successful and I have the drive I do is exactly because of how I grew up, because I was involved, because I learned, all the pros and cons of running around and playing, how to work through hard times, being the best, not being the best, all the things we learn, being sidelined, being injured, being a captain, being a not a leader, but, someone that has to just be on the team. There's so many life lessons. I sat my whole sophomore year of high school due to a major back surgery. That was critical time.
High school surgery? Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, my body's pretty messed up. That's all. That could be another dialogue.
That's a whole
nother conversation.
That's early for a back injury.
Yeah. Well, but I learned so much through all the things I've experienced, right? Pain into purpose is another just philosophy of mine. What do we do with this? How do we grow from these things? So yes, I'm a huge proponent of life coming through these experiences. You cannot get around them. You have to work through it. And then what are you learning about your life?
Well, one thing that you guys are both really touching on too, and just for the audience too, is these two, we're all about channeling the right energy in the right places. And when you're on your phone for 3-4 hours and your body still needs to go get moving and you feel like, well, I got to go to bed, you go to bed, with all that anxiety, you're going to wake up with it.
Yeah.
And people are, and what you guys are doing, you guys are channeling this energy the right way. So people like us who are in positions that we got businesses now, we're trying to help other people out, is because we grew up with that kind of discipline.
Yes.
right? And channeling that energy properly in the right places. And I think that's the issue that a lot of kids, especially adults, are even going through, because they weren't taught the right ways to channel their energy. You know what I mean? Like you said, it doesn't have to be physical fitness. It could be art.
Well, mental health is a new, I feel like in the last 12 years, like it's kind of a new, right? Like it wasn't talked, I mean, at least from what I remember.
It wasn't talked about, but it doesn't mean people weren't suffering.
Oh, no, totally.
You know,
100%.
That's the thing. And now is it amplified? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much out there, and is it directing us in a good way? And I do dog technology a lot. It's not all bad. There's some amazing things we can do with this, you know, but there's a lot that our kids are being exposed to that, you know, we have to question, is this good for them? Is this healthy? And what is it doing to how they view others?
Totally.
You know, I think that my big goal, you guys, is, I mean, this is lofty, but it's really to stop the cycle of pain. You know, I believe hurt people, healed people, heal people. And that's my mission, is can we be better to each other, not contribute to someone else's downfall? And that's tough when you come from a place of being hurt. Sometimes it's just this natural progression of passing the pain. But I really, that is a big mission of mine, is let's slow that down. Let's create more connection, community, good, taking care of each other, stop hurting each other. You know, that's probably my big goal.
That is lofty, and I love it. That is what Trip and I are all about. If you knew our origin story, we are lofty, and that's honestly, that's what you need to get out of bed in the morning, is to have a mission that is like, this is almost impossible, but I'm going to approach it. And I love the hurt people thing, and that goes to a like just a deep-rooted psychology of understanding that, like, my interactions aren't always reflective of who I am as a person. It's more a reflection of who this person is. And when we can do that consciously, we can understand that those conversations we're having throughout the day are a reflection of how people feel about themselves.
Yes.
Then we can start to go, oh my gosh, that's an aha moment.
Yes.
They're not yelling at me because they're mad at me. And so, you know, I'm taking that and just the things that what you said, and that's a huge thought to absorb, and I just wanted to repeat that. It's like, yes.
Well, we preach here too. We had a little conversation about this, about environments. You know what? It doesn't matter if it's a kid, adolescent, or adult. Your environment dictates on how you're going to reflect and who you are. If you're hanging around 5 people that have negative influences, you're going to be the 6th negative influence. We're always trying to preach, hey, listen, if you're around some bad potatoes, you know, you got to find yourself a fresh farmer's market.
So what does a parent do today's day and age in 2023? You want your kid to be successful. You want them to have fun. You want to have a good life. You want them maybe to go to college if that's their path.
Yeah.
How do they approach it? They still want to be competitive and push their kids, but they're worried about pushing them too much. What's the secret sauce?
I think it's a couple things. One, know your child. There's no one-size-fits-all formula, and that's a trap we fall into even in like Western medicine, right? Like, you have a cold, here's what you need to take. That doesn't work for everybody. So know your child, number one. Number two, I'm a huge proponent of balance. Push them, of course, challenge them, help them be the best they can be. And make sure, though, we're not pushing them over the edge. You know that line, and empower them to use their voice. You know, I think that we need to really, really get into the empowering them to use their voice and to be heard and to hear others, right? It has to be reciprocal. So I think ultimately, let's try to raise better humans. You know, I think it's like, what are we bragging about? Like the fact that they got a D1 offer, or that, like, my son's a really good kid. Like, he cares for people. To me, that outweighs it, because who knows what, I mean, and the D1 offer, that's awesome too, right? But like, I don't know, what are we modeling as parents? You know, what are we valuing? What are our values? I think we've lost some of that, you know, we've lost even identification of values and then modeling that. So a couple things. I think there's a lot of things parents can do. The other thing I would say too is parents also feel quite isolated and alone. You know, when they're little, you do all the play groups and things, and then it goes away. And they're stuck maybe talking to their partner, maybe not. And then trying to get through the trenches, you know, high school, college, those years, even arguably in their 20s, those are really formative, hard years. I always say they're awesome and awful in the same breath, you know, because kids are trying to figure out who they are. And that's not easy, you know, when you're up against a lot of junk out there. So I think just understanding, you know, the path they're on, the environment they're in, the time frame, and like we've said a few times on this show, it's different today. It is different. There's no question. And again, I don't say that to baby them. I say that to acknowledge it is different world right now.
Well, even us, everyone is business owners too. It's like you talk about my grandpa starting a crane company in 1955 versus a crane company right now. You're talking about some drastic different level stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whether that's social media, websites, just insurance in general, you know, things have changed. And I think the growth of how fast things have come up with social media, how important online is for not only our personal preference, but our professional performance. You know, our kids see that. You know, the monkey see, monkey do. It's like, the dad's always on the computer.
Yes.
Mom's always doing this, and she's always taking pictures of herself and doing this, and they see the importance. They see the importance of that. It's like, that's important to mom and dad.
Yeah.
It should be important to me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, on the one hand, check yourself as an adult, right?
Right. Yeah.
What are you modeling? And the other big thing I would say, we have got to have better communication. Talk to your kids. Ask them the hard questions. I mean, there's so many topics that are not being discussed. Intimacy, for example, is one that we're not talking about it. That's a problem. We need to have dialogue with our kids and understand and help them know their body, respect someone else's body. We're not talking about these things. You know, mental health, we're not really talking about, we are getting there more and more, but I think communication is critical. Having dialogue, sitting down at the dinner table, no phones. How was your day? Tell me more. When a kid says something, instead of jumping to a solution, put it back on them. Teach them to be thinkers. What do you think about that? How does that feel to you? What do you think the other guy felt? Have dialogue. I'm not saying you all have to be therapists at dinner, but have a conversation.
Well, yeah, and you know, and then all these parents and stuff. Again, I'm dragging on the parents now too. Look at me.
Stop it.
I'm sorry. Then they expect the school system to clean up all the mess that they don't not at home. It's like, well, I expect you to teach about sex education in school. I expect you to teach my kid about honor and respect here. It's like
they're not.
Well, it's the same. Yeah, same thing as a gym. It's like we have total control of what happens in here, but as soon as you walk out those doors, you have everything in the world in front of you, and we can't stop that.
Right.
That's why discipline's so important and everything, and that's why all those things should be taught at home in a comfortable environment,
right?
In an open discussion, like you were saying.
And if you look at the amount of time the kids are spending on social media, that's another teacher. And if those messages are absorbing into their brain, and you only get 10 minutes at dinner, you really got to think about that.
You've talked a lot about technology. I am 1,000% on your side with that, by the way. I mean, 1,000,000 times over. We could go into I don't have a TikTok, and I wish I didn't have social media. I do it because of the business and people who are visible, and it's good to spread good messages. But if you look at what's going on as you scroll through what's going on to your brain, you're totally right. It's a game changer for the dopamine of kids and their attention span. And so is the sugary cereal that we had as kids. So you mix the sugary cereal with these really surface level ideas.
And false information.
Yes.
And false information, and you're bombarding them with people who look perfect.
Yes.
Nobody, by the way, nobody looks like they do on their Instagram.
Yeah.
Everybody is editing their photos now. Everybody is
Yeah.
taking that one snapshot. So you got all these self-esteem issues. What do we do? Like, how do you with technology coming, we can't ignore it.
No.
So what's like the message?
I mean, the thing is, okay, as much as I have said all that I've said, it's also not all bad, right? And the train has left the station. You know, we already did this. We handed this to our 2-year-olds, 15 years ago. So many kids have grown up on this, in this world. It's funny, my own children will say they wish they didn't grow up with this, by the way. I have a little bit older aged kids. So let's say 0 to, 12, they were without a screen. Okay, nowadays we don't see that. That's not happening. Right. But when my husband and I talk about our childhoods to our children, my son will be the first to be like, man, I wish that was how it was. He wants to just like run around and be a kid and play in the neighborhood. I mean, he's older now, but they acknowledge that. But it's not all bad. So we have to see the good and the bad. Again, balance and understand what is it doing to their brain? What is it doing to their self-esteem? What is it doing to their levels of anxiety? And we need to teach and empower kids and then make sure we're providing spaces that we don't have any of that. There's none of that there. Like I said, at dinner table or at the 2 hours of practice or when you're in the gym, you don't have to be filming and doing all this other crap. Just be present. So balance, I think, empowering them, teaching them, and acknowledging what it is. It's both good and bad, and we need to acknowledge that.
Education. Triple appreciate this. I think back to the first, he's an old school gym rat where, we grew up in like the dungeon gyms. And if you pulled a tripod out in a dungeon, in a dungeon gym, I mean, it was weights everywhere. People were in the moment.
Yeah.
People had serious expressions on their faces. They were working hard.
Yeah.
They were in their element. And now you see, bright lights. There's a camera, and they have another light filming themselves. It's a different environment.
Well, and back then, I think the worst thing was mirrors. We talked about, do I really want to see myself and see other people, right? But now there's a mirror everywhere, right? And so it's just tough. This is what is making it hard on our kids, right? That constant comparison. Who's doing what? Who's getting offers? What's their ranking? What's your GPA? Who's going to prom? What new shoes do you have? I mean, it's in their face 24/7. That's hard.
That's huge. Go
Well,
ahead.
yeah. Oh, sorry. And then all their priorities seem to be jumbled up into different directions because they're being pulled from so many different directions.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine. We were the kind of like the guinea pig generation for technology, Scantron machines, all those kind of stuff. You remember those? Yeah.
I forgot what that was.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a blast from the past. Like the pre-computer test.
Oh, yeah.
Scantron.
Yeah. I forgot I was going with that after that. Crap.
It was such a great. I mean, Scantron was enough to drop that bomb.
But they still use those.
Do
That's
they?
what's funny.
Oh yeah, they still do, don't they?
Yeah, they scan
they just
answers and boom.
Pass it in.
But we got a little bit of both. We got some of the outdoor stuff. But we were also the guinea pigs for this digital generation.
Sorry.
That's okay. We got a little bit of balance there, and I do think that the parents that are in our generation right now are having a hard time with that balance because kids are pulling them. Listen, like, Dad, I want to be on this. I want to play this game. I got friends that are playing this. I want to make sure that I'm doing this, and we're not teaching the right priorities. So, let's say a kid's having a problem with getting rid of an iPad because they want to get rid of, or they want to play the game and continue to do it, and the parent knows it's time to stop and to get disciplined with either schoolwork or working out. What suggestions could you give that parent to diffuse the situation and make sure that they can go ahead and get done with what they need to do?
Well, I think it goes back to boundaries, consistency, discipline. Can't be afraid to say no to our kids. But also understand the beast, right? These people that create these programs know exactly what they're doing. And it is scientific down to how we draw people in. So I think understanding, and it's like a drug. I mean, sometimes
Literally.
these kids are so addicted, you have to wean them off and teach them why am I doing this? It's not just I'm trying to be a jerk. Your brain is not fully developed, and let me explain to you what's happening right now. So giving them those tools and that education and that awareness, and then setting clear boundaries. I think more and more parents are doing that. They're setting time limits. So I'm hearing more of that, and I'm grateful. I'm also hearing more awareness from young people recognizing and acknowledging it's not really good. So the teenagers I'm seeing, we're starting to see a change. I'll hear them even say, I'm not going to give this to my kid. I'm like, okay, great. So maybe we will swing in the other direction. But there are still a lot of people with young children that I see them out at dinner and I'm like, oh gosh.
Just give them the iPad. They got headphones in. They're totally immersed.
Yeah.
Their social awareness is gone. I look at that and I'm like, oh.
Well, right. And I think that the other thing is mindfulness. Okay, another big concept. But really it is like being at peace, allowing your body to just chill and relax and quote unquote be bored. I mean, just calm down. Like when I was younger, I think I'm older than you two, we would go places and you'd literally just stare out the window for 8 hours driving to your grandparents' house.
Yeah.
Maybe radio would come in and out. You'd hit your sister and play, but that's it. That's
a great time.
License plates. It is good for our brain and our body to have those moments of recovery. I'm sure you guys do a lot of work around recovery. I mean, I was just with a group not long ago, and I asked them, "What are you doing for recovery?" And nobody knew. They were like, "Ice baths? Yeah, that's one piece." But having that downtime, that recovery is critical for their mental health and their physical health.
Well, self-care, mental, physical, spiritual is huge. I know we're getting towards the end of the episode here. We want to thank you so much for coming in and also give you a chance to plug your business, who you are, and anything else that's kind of going on that you want everybody else to know about.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for having me. So I'm Catherine Ames, and I'm the founder of Through the Game. It's THRU, the game, throughthegame.com. If you're interested in workshops, in me coming to speak, I work with athletes, coaches, and parents. I'm open to dialoguing, to figuring out what's going on in your organization or what your needs are. We can make anything work, and again, if you can just open your mind to prevention and not get stuck in, we don't have time, this costs too much money. Let's just take out all the roadblocks and figure out how to make this work. And I'm also a private therapist. If you're looking for that, reach out to me. My information is on Psychology Today, Catherine Mangano Ames. But find me through my website, reach out, ask questions. I'm here to keep talking about this and keep pushing this message. As I said, I'll go talk to anybody. I believe in this. I think we can do it. I think that one human at a time, we can be better. And I'm just going to stand firm on that and keep doing what I'm doing.
I love that. You mind if and then you can do a sign up? Yeah, right back at you for coming on. Thank you. One thing I love, among other things about this podcast, is we've had people on like you who are steadfast in your mission and you can't be derailed. You have a finite purpose. You know what you're doing and you've managed to make a business out of it. And you're going to affect, as you already have, so many kids, parents and coaches' lives. So Tripp and I are grateful that you've come here today, spread your message, and definitely for the audience here, please look her up. She's got social medias as well. Follow her. And thank you again for joining and listening to this amazing conversation.
Yeah, guys, all of her information, we'll tag all of your backlink stuff in the description. So if you guys are interested, just go down the description of the podcast you're listening to right now and go click on check her stuff out. She's been an amazing guest. We're so happy to have her on. Make sure you guys are liking, sharing, subscribing. Guys, we got some awesome news. We have a genetic program done now that we can give to you guys once you guys get your genetic test. Set up a free virtual or in-person consult at www.ascendperformancetraining.com. Go pick up health profiling from Kindle or Amazon, and then make sure you guys are checking out our supplement line, Colivia Labs. You can find that on the bottom portion of our Ascend Performance Training page, and go check out these amazing supplements. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Health or High Water. We're out.
Peace.